live in a world that tells us to hustle harder, push faster, and fight relentlessly for everything we want. Everywhere you look, someone is telling you that success belongs only to those who exhaust themselves chasing it. But the Stoics discovered something different. They understood that the strongest person is not always the one who forces life the hardest, but the one who knows when to act, when to wait, and when to release. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to return to the present, because the present is the only place where our power actually exists. This does not mean becoming lazy, passive, or careless with your dreams. The Stoics were not people who gave up on life. They were disciplined, practical, and deeply courageous. But they understood that there is a difference between wise effort and desperate force. When you grip an outcome too tightly, when your peace depends on whether life gives you exactly what you want, anxiety begins to control you. And when anxiety controls you, your actions become tense, rushed, and unclear. Think about water. It does not fight every rock in its path. It moves around it, over it, through it, and over time it shapes the entire landscape. That is not weakness. That is quiet power. In the same way, a Stoic learns to move through life with relaxed intention, clear about what he wants, committed to what he can do, but not enslaved by the result. He plants the seed with discipline, then trusts the process enough not to dig it up every day in fear. This is the mindset we are going to explore: how to desire without desperation, act without panic, and receive life without trying to control every detail. These principles are not about magic or wishful thinking. They are about training your mind so you stop blocking your own peace with fear, pressure, and attachment. When your mind becomes calm, you begin to see opportunities you missed before. You make better decisions. You attract better people, not because you are forcing life, but because you are no longer moving from inner lack. Before we go deeper, if this kind of Stoic wisdom speaks to you, subscribe to the channel and comment this line to anchor the lesson: when I relax, life flows to me. Now let's begin with the first principle: the art of detached desire. Here is the paradox most people never understand. The more desperately you need something, the more power it has over you. You may want success, love, money, recognition, healing, or a new beginning. There is nothing wrong with wanting these things. The problem begins when your identity depends on them. When you say, "I cannot be okay unless this happens," you turn desire into a chain. You stop acting from strength and start acting from fear. Epictetus taught that wealth is not found in having many possessions, but in having few wants. This does not mean you should stop dreaming or lower your standards. It means your inner freedom must not depend on external things. You may prefer success, love, and abundance, but your peace cannot be held hostage by them. The Stoics call this kind of attitude preferred indifference. You can prefer something, work for it, and welcome it, without making it the master of your soul. Look at people who seem to attract good things naturally. They are not usually the ones constantly begging life for proof, complaining about what they lack, or chasing validation from everyone around them. They carry their desires lightly. They want good things, but they do not define their worth by whether those things arrive today, tomorrow, or in the exact form they imagined. That calm confidence changes everything. It allows them to make decisions from abundance instead of fear. Detached desire means you can say, "I would love for this to happen, and I will do my part with discipline, but I will not lose myself if life chooses another path." That sentence contains power. It removes pressure without removing effort. It opens your mind to possibilities beyond your original plan. Sometimes, what you are chasing is too small for what life is preparing. Sometimes, the thing you thought you needed is only one door among many. Practice this today. Hold your biggest desire in your mind. See it clearly, but do not strangle it with fear. Take a breath and say, "This or something wiser." Then return to what you can control: your effort, your character, your preparation, your choices, and your present action. That is not giving up. That is becoming free. So remember this first Stoic principle: desire with peace, not desperation. Want deeply, but do not cling blindly. Work seriously, but do not worship the outcome. Hold your dreams like a butterfly in your hand carefully, respectfully, without crushing them. And once you learn detached desire, the next step is even more powerful. Learning how the present moment becomes the place where everything begins to change. The second Stoic principle is present moment power. Your mind is probably living everywhere except the only place where your power exists. Right here, right now. Most people spend their days replaying a past they cannot change, or worrying about a future that has not arrived. They are physically present, but mentally absent. And because of that, they miss the opportunities, signals, conversations, and small openings that life is placing in front of them. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to confine his attention to the present. Not because the past does not matter, and not because the future should be ignored, but because neither one can be acted on directly. The past can teach you, but it cannot be rewritten. The future can guide your preparation, but it cannot be controlled before it comes. The only moment where discipline, courage, wisdom, and action are possible is this one. When you are not present, your energy becomes scattered. You speak to one person while thinking about another problem. You work on one task while fearing tomorrow's outcome. You sit in a room full of possibilities, but your mind is trapped in regret or anxiety. This is why presence is powerful. A calm and present mind notices what a stressed mind overlooks. It hears the useful advice inside a casual conversation. It sees the opportunity hidden in an ordinary moment. It responds with clarity instead of reacting from fear. Seneca taught that true happiness comes from enjoying the present without anxious dependence on the future. That is not just a beautiful idea. It is practical wisdom. When your happiness depends entirely on what may happen later, you cannot fully use what is happening now. You become someone who is always waiting for success, waiting for love, waiting for money, waiting for certainty, waiting for life to finally begin. But life does not begin later. Life is always happening now. Think about the most magnetic people you know. They are not always the loudest, richest, or most impressive. Often, they are the ones who make you feel fully seen when they speak to you. They are not checking their phone every second, rushing their words, or mentally escaping the moment. They look, listen, and respond with calm attention. That kind of presence creates trust. It tells people, I am here. And in a distracted world, true presence becomes rare power. The irony is this: when you stop obsessing over the future, you often create a better future. Not because you stop caring, but because your actions become cleaner. You make better decisions when your mind is not divided. You recognize the right people, the right timing, and the right next step. Anxiety says, what if everything goes wrong? Presence asks, what can I do well right now? That question brings your power back. So how do you practice this? Start with your breath. Whenever you notice your mind running into fear, return to one slow breath. Feel your feet on the ground. Notice what is actually in front of you. Then ask yourself, what is the next wise action I can take? Do not try to solve your entire life in one moment. Simply return to the task, the conversation, the choice, the discipline that belongs to now. This is not just meditation. This is Stoic training. Every time you return to the present, you weaken the power of regret and anxiety. Every time you act from now instead of fear, you become steadier. The present moment is not a waiting room for your future. It is the workshop where your future is being shaped. So stop living as if peace is always somewhere else. Stop waiting for perfect conditions before you become disciplined. Stop letting tomorrow steal the strength you need today. Be here, act here, choose here. Because when your mind returns to the present, your life begins to open in ways you could not see while you were trapped in fear. And once you learn to live in the present, the next lesson becomes clear. Even resistance can become part of the path. The third Stoic principle is the wisdom of accepted resistance. Life will give you obstacles. That is not a possibility. It is a certainty. Plans will fail. People will disappoint you. Timing will test you. And doors you expected to open may stay closed. But the question is not whether resistance will appear. The real question is whether you will treat it as an enemy or as training. Marcus Aurelius wrote that what stands in the way becomes the way. This is one of the most powerful Stoic truths ever written. It means the obstacle is not always there to stop you. Sometimes it is there to redirect you, strengthen you, humble you, or reveal a better path. Most people meet resistance and immediately think life is against them. A Stoic meets resistance and asks, "What is this trying to teach me?" When you fight reality, you waste energy on the wrong battle. You complain that the delay should not be happening. You resent the person who rejected you. You replay the mistake again and again, wishing the past could be changed. But resistance does not disappear because you hate it. It only becomes heavier. The moment you accept that the obstacle is here, your energy stops leaking into resentment and returns to action. Think of water again. Water does not panic when it meets a rock. It does not stop moving because the path is blocked. It adjusts. It flows around, over, or through what stands before it. And over time, that quiet persistence shapes stone. This is not weakness. This is disciplined flexibility. The Stoic does not become hard in a way that breaks. He becomes steady in a way that adapts. Your obstacles may be doing the same thing for you. The rejection may be sharpening your self-respect. The delay may be training your patience. The failure may be exposing the weakness you need to correct. The difficult person may be giving you a chance to practice emotional control. The closed door may be protecting you from a path that looked good but would have weakened your character. This does not mean pretending pain feels good. Stoicism is not denial. If something hurts, admit that it hurts. If something is difficult, face it honestly. But do not add unnecessary suffering by deciding that every obstacle is proof that your life is falling apart. Sometimes the sand that irritates the oyster becomes the pearl. Sometimes the pressure you resent is the very thing forming strength inside you. The practice is simple. When something resists you, pause before reacting. Ask, how can this serve my growth? What virtue is this asking from me? What action is still within my control? Maybe the answer is patience. Maybe it is courage. Maybe it is humility, discipline, forgiveness, or restraint. Whatever the answer is, the obstacle becomes useful the moment you stop only resenting it and start learning from it. This is how resistance becomes part of the path. You stop wasting your strength arguing with what happened. You stop taking every delay personally. You stop treating every setback as a final verdict. Instead, you respond with wisdom. You adjust. You learn. You keep moving. You become harder to disturb because you no longer need life to be smooth in order to remain steady. So the next time life blocks your plan, do not immediately assume you're being punished. The delay may be protection. The detour may lead somewhere better. The rejection may clear space for a stronger yes. You may not see the full picture yet, but you can still choose your response. That is where your freedom lives. Accepted resistance is not passive surrender. It is active wisdom. It says, this is here. Now how do I meet it with character? And once you learn to turn resistance into training, the next Stoic principle becomes even more important, reclaiming your inner authority. So the outside world no longer controls your inner state. The fourth Stoic principle is the power of inner authority. Most people do not realize how much of their peace they have handed over to the outside world. Their mood depends on who approves of them. Their confidence rises or falls with money, attention, praise, rejection, or the opinion of people who may not even understand their path. They wake up free, but by noon their mind belongs to circumstances. Epictetus taught that no one can truly harm you unless you give them power over your judgment. This does not mean people cannot hurt, disappoint, or mistreat you. It means their actions do not have the final authority over your inner state. The moment you say, I cannot be happy until they change, or I cannot feel successful until I receive this result, you have handed the keys of your mind to something outside yourself. This is exhausting because the external world is unstable. People change. Money rises and falls. Opportunities come and go. Praise turns into silence. One day you feel chosen, the next day forgotten. If your peace depends on these things, your life becomes a puppet show, and circumstances pull the strings. Stoicism calls you back to the only kingdom that was ever truly yours. The kingdom within. Inner authority begins when you stop making outcomes responsible for your well-being. You can still want success, love, respect, and progress, but you no longer let them decide whether you are whole. You choose your attitude before the world gives you permission. You choose discipline before results appear. You choose self-respect before anyone validates you. That is where real power begins. Think about how different life becomes when you stop asking the outside world to define you. If someone rejects you, you can feel the pain without deciding you are worthless. If a plan fails, you can learn from it without calling your life a failure. If people misunderstand you, you can remain honest without wasting your soul trying to control their opinion. This is not emotional coldness. This is emotional command. When you reclaim inner authority, your actions change. You no longer chase from lack. You no longer beg for attention. You no longer make desperate decisions just to feel safe for a moment. You move with a calmer strength because your identity is no longer hanging from every result. People can sense that. Opportunities often come more easily to the person who is not trying to prove their worth in every room. This is why the Stoic path is so powerful. It teaches you to check in with yourself before you check the world. Before you look for validation, ask, what do I choose to stand for today? Before you let someone's reaction control you, ask, does this deserve authority over my mind? Before you panic over a result, ask, what is still within my control? These questions return power to its rightful place. Your external life will always change, but your inner authority can be trained. Each time you choose patience over reaction, you strengthen it. Each time you choose dignity over desperation, you strengthen it. Each time you choose reason over panic, you strengthen it. Slowly, you stop being controlled by every mood, message, delay, and opinion. You become harder to move because you are rooted in something deeper than circumstances. So remember this principle. You are the author of your inner experience, not always of what happens, but of how you meet what happens. Not always of the result, but of the character you bring to the result. Reclaim that authority, and life will no longer be able to throw your soul in every direction. And once you understand this, you are ready for the next Stoic principle, knowing when the strongest action is not more force, but strategic stillness. The fifth Stoic principle is strategic stillness. This may sound strange in a world that worships constant motion, but sometimes the strongest thing you can do is not more. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stop forcing, step back, and let wisdom decide whether action is truly needed. Not every movement is progress. Not every busy day is a meaningful day, and not every problem becomes better because you keep pushing at it. Modern life teaches us to confuse exhaustion with commitment. If you are tired, you must be working hard. If you are always responding, you must be responsible. If you are constantly chasing, you must be ambitious. But the Stoics would ask a sharper question. Is this action coming from reason or from anxiety? Because many people are not acting from discipline. They are acting because stillness makes them uncomfortable. There is a difference between wise action and restless action. Wise action has direction. Restless action only wants relief. It sends another message because silence feels dangerous. It checks again because waiting feels unbearable. It forces another plan because uncertainty feels too heavy. But often, this kind of action does not create progress. It only creates more noise around the mind. A Stoic understands that self-control is not only the ability to act, it is also the ability to refrain, the ability to not speak when anger wants to speak, to not chase when fear wants to chase, to not rush when patience is required, to not interfere with a process that needs time. Restraint is not weakness. Restraint is power under command. Think of a master chess player. He does not move pieces just to feel active. He studies the board, waits for the right opening, and understands that one patient move can be stronger than 10 impulsive ones. A beginner reacts to every threat with fear. A master sees the larger pattern. Life is the same. If you act only because you are afraid of waiting, you may make the situation worse. But if you can pause long enough to see clearly, your next move becomes stronger. Strategic stillness does not mean laziness. It does not mean avoiding responsibility or calling fear peace. It means knowing when you have done your part and when further force would only damage what you planted. A farmer does not dig up the seed every morning to prove it is growing. He waters, protects, and waits. He understands that some things must develop in darkness before they appear in the light. This applies to relationships, career, healing, and personal growth. Sometimes you have already explained enough. Sometimes you have already applied enough pressure. Sometimes you have already taken the necessary step, and the next wise action is to wait with dignity. When you keep forcing beyond that point, your effort becomes interference. You are no longer helping the process. You are suffocating it. So practice this principle in small ways. When you do not know the answer, admit, I do not know yet. When waiting feels right, allow yourself to wait. When your emotions demand an immediate reaction, give yourself space before speaking. When you have done your part, stop trying to control the entire result. Let reality reveal what your anxiety cannot see. This kind of stillness creates space for better decisions. It gives your mind room to breathe. It allows solutions, opportunities, and clarity to appear without being crushed by panic. The person who can wait without losing themselves becomes powerful because they are no longer controlled by urgency. Remember this: strategic stillness is not doing nothing. It is refusing to do the wrong thing just because fear wants movement. It is patience with awareness. It is restraint with strength. It is the discipline to act when action is wise, and to be still when stillness is wiser. And once you learn this, the next Stoic principle becomes easier to understand. Gratitude is not just a pleasant emotion. It is a force that changes how you see your entire life. The sixth Stoic principle is gratitude. Most people think gratitude is just a positive feeling, something polite to say when life is going well. But for the Stoics, gratitude was much deeper than that. It was a way of training the mind to see clearly. Because the untrained mind always notices what is missing first. It sees the delay, the problem, the person who disappointed you, the opportunity that did not arrive, and then it forgets everything that is still present. Gratitude does not mean pretending life is perfect. Marcus Aurelius knew people could be selfish, dishonest, arrogant, and difficult, yet he still trained himself to meet them with understanding instead of bitterness. That is Stoic gratitude. Not blindness, but discipline. It is the ability to look at reality honestly and still say, there is something here I can learn from. There is still something here I can use. There is still something here that has not been taken from me. When you focus only on what is broken, your mind becomes poor. Even if your life is full, you may have health, time, ability, people who care about you, lessons from pain, and another day to begin again. But scarcity makes all of that invisible. It whispers, not enough, not yet, not me. Gratitude interrupts that voice. It brings your attention back to what is already in your hands. This is why gratitude creates strength. A grateful person does not deny hardship, but hardship does not own their entire vision. They can face a difficult season and still recognize the gift of discipline being formed. They can experience rejection and still be grateful for the self-respect it awakened. They can lose a path and still be grateful for the wisdom that now protects them from walking blindly. Every morning you can practice this simply. Before you start chasing what is next, name what is already here. Your breath, your body, your mind, your chance to correct yesterday's mistake, your ability to choose one better action today. These may sound small, but a life is built from what we repeatedly notice. If you train your mind only to see lack, lack becomes your world. If you train your mind to see what remains, strength begins to return. Gratitude also changes the way you treat people. Instead of demanding perfection from everyone, you begin to see how limited and struggling human beings can be. You become less easily offended, less quick to condemn, and less controlled by disappointment. This does not mean you accept disrespect. It means you stop letting bitterness become your default state. You can set boundaries and still remain free from hatred. At night, practice again. Review the day and find what was worth receiving, even if the day was difficult. Maybe someone helped you. Maybe a problem taught you patience. Maybe a mistake showed you where to grow. Maybe nothing dramatic happened, but you were given another ordinary day to practice wisdom. Gratitude turns ordinary life into training ground for peace. So remember this principle. Gratitude is not weakness, and it is not fake positivity. It is the Stoic discipline of refusing to let pain erase the whole picture. It teaches you to live from fullness instead of constant lack. And once you train gratitude, the next principle becomes even more powerful. Emotional sovereignty. The ability to feel deeply without letting emotion rule your life. The seventh Stoic principle is emotional sovereignty. Most people live as if their emotions are something that simply happens to them. Someone ignores them, and they lose peace. Someone criticizes them, and their confidence collapses. Something goes wrong, and suddenly anger, fear, or sadness takes control of the entire day. But Stoicism teaches a harder truth. Your emotions may arise naturally, but they do not have to rule you. Seneca understood that the mind must be trained not to be carried away by every new disturbance. This does not mean suppressing your emotions or pretending you feel nothing. A Stoic is not a stone. A Stoic feels anger, sadness, fear, disappointment, and grief, but he does not hand those emotions the authority to command his actions. He listens to them, learns from them, and then chooses his response with reason. Think about two people facing the same rejection. One person allows it to become an identity. I am not enough. I always fail. Nothing works for me. They carry the wound for weeks, maybe months, and let it shape how they see themselves. Another person feels the pain, but pauses before surrendering to it. They ask, what can this teach me? What is still within my control? How can I respond without betraying my character? The event is the same, but the inner authority is different. This is emotional sovereignty. It is the ability to feel deeply without becoming a servant to what you feel. Anger can show you that a boundary was crossed, but it does not need to make you cruel. Fear can warn you that something matters, but it does not need to make you passive. Sadness can reveal what you valued, but it does not need to drown your future. Your emotions are messengers. They were never meant to be masters. The modern world constantly trains emotional slavery. It tells you to react instantly, post immediately, answer while angry, defend yourself before thinking, and let every feeling become a public performance. But the Stoic path is different. It asks you to pause, to breathe, to create space between the feeling and the action. In that small space, freedom begins. So when a strong emotion rises, do not fight it and do not obey it blindly. Name it first. This is anger. This is fear. This is shame. This is disappointment. Then ask, what is this emotion trying to show me, and what would wisdom do with it? That one question changes the relationship. You are no longer being dragged by the emotion. You are observing it, understanding it, and deciding how to use its energy. This is powerful because emotions contain energy. Anger can become courage when guided by justice. Fear can become preparation when guided by reason. Sadness can become depth when guided by reflection. Even disappointment can become discipline when you refuse to let it turn into bitterness. The goal is not to erase emotion. The goal is to govern it. Emotional sovereignty also protects your future. Many people destroy in one emotional moment what took years to build. One angry message, one desperate decision, one reaction made from wounded pride, one choice made while fear was loud and reason was silent. Stoicism trains you to wait until your mind returns to command before you act. That restraint may save your relationship, your reputation, your peace, and your path. So practice this daily. When emotion rises, pause before speaking. When fear appears, return to what is within your control. When anger burns, ask whether your next action will create justice or regret. When sadness comes, allow it to pass through you without making it your permanent identity. You are allowed to feel, but you are not required to be ruled. Remember this principle. Your emotions exist, but they do not own you. They can inform you, but they must not command you. They can visit your mind, but they must not sit on the throne. The Stoic life is not emotionless. It is emotionally governed. And once you learn this, The next principle becomes clear. The philosophy of enough. The quiet power of realizing you are already whole before life gives you more. The eighth Stoic principle is the philosophy of enough. In a world that constantly tells you to want more, buy more, prove more, and become more before you can feel complete, this principle is almost rebellious. The Stoics understood that peace does not begin when you finally possess everything. Peace begins when you stop believing that your worth depends on the next thing you acquire. Seneca wrote that it is not the person who has too little who is poor, but the person who craves more. This is not a rejection of success. It is a warning against endless hunger. You can have wealth, attention, comfort, and achievement, yet still feel empty if your mind has been trained to always say, not enough. The problem is not desire itself. The problem is desire without discipline. The philosophy of enough does not mean settling for a small life. It does not mean abandoning your dreams or pretending ambition is wrong. It means understanding that your happiness cannot be postponed until every external condition is perfect. You can grow from peace instead of insecurity. You can pursue better things without hating the life you already have. You can want more without becoming a slave to more. This is where many people lose their freedom. They believe they will finally feel calm when they earn more money, receive more validation, gain more recognition, or become more impressive in the eyes of others. But the finish line keeps moving. As soon as they get one thing, the mind demands another. That is why Stoicism trains you to ask a deeper question. Can I be grateful now while still improving? Enough is not weakness. Enough is inner stability. It is the quiet confidence of a person who knows, I am already whole, even as I continue to grow. From that foundation, your actions become cleaner. You no longer chase success as proof that you matter. You no longer beg for love as proof that you are worthy. You no longer compare every step of your life to someone else's public victory. Think about the people who carry this energy. They are not always the richest or the loudest, but they seem grounded. They can enjoy what they have without being possessed by it. They can pursue goals without desperation. They can celebrate another person's success without feeling attacked by it. Their peace does not come from having everything. It comes from needing less to remain steady. Practice this before you sleep tonight. Look honestly at what is already present in your life. Your breath, your body, your mind, your lessons, your chances, your ability to begin again. Do not use gratitude as an excuse to become passive. Use it as a foundation. A grateful person can still build, still improve, still aim higher, but they build from fullness, not from fear. So remember this principle. You are enough before the next achievement arrives. Your life is not empty simply because it is unfinished. You can desire growth while still respecting who you are today. That is the Stoic balance. Contentment without laziness, ambition without desperation, gratitude without surrendering the future. And once you understand enough, the next principle becomes powerful. The courage to live as your authentic self instead of chasing a life that was never truly yours.